Well, howdy, little buckaroos. Oh my God. Go! Mexico just scored again. Yeah. Mm, wow. And it's in Mexico City right now, the soccer match. That's pretty cool. I bet the fans down there are going bananas. You know what I mean? Which I think Mexico does actually export bananas, right? Don't you guys export bananas down there? Who's the banana man? Who's the banana man down in Mexico right now? Somebody's going to be getting a banana split after this. Um, Sorry, you guys, I'm kind of a mess right now, but this streaming thing's been kind of perturbing me. Okay. And I did submit my feedback report to YouTube, both via my mobile device, which I typically record on for ease of use, you know what I mean, and flexibility. And then also my laptop here for more, stuff that's like already set up, you know what I mean? So, because, with the mobile app, you can just click and go, you know what I mean? You don't have to worry about what's going on. So, and there's a lot of options on the mobile app too that like I don't see here on the desktop app where like I could just do a dark screen or a green screen or anything of that nature. So all right. Also earlier Scotland lost. I was pulling for you guys. The Tartan Army, right? That's been fun to watch. So I was just gonna say, I was literally just gonna say, my apologies if I get distracted during this reading because I have the game on, in the background. Anyway, you'd do better if I just did it. Yeah. I think this light behind my hair is making it look a little bit thinner than it actually is. So, you know what I mean? It's not so bad. What do you guys think? What you guys used to do when you're just chilling at home? Do your hair, watch TV, listen to the radio. I mean, isn't that what we're kind of doing? Mhm. Anyway, wow, he's pretty cute. I don't follow the sport, so I have, I don't know who all the players are. Anyway, all right. So I can see what I'm doing. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just not digging this lighting right now. So maybe this would help if I got rid of this one. Oh God. Yeah, see, that's like super bright. Ooh. Hmm. That's kind of fun. Not so bad. I don't think that's yeah, see. I don't know if I want that on you guys. Do you know what I mean? That's a little better, honestly, without the competing light sources. Now it's like we're telling ghost stories, right? I know. Experiments in lighting, part one, right? Okay, see that's not like a ring light or anything. It's just like a signage light. So I'm just going through that. Let's see if I ever adjust. Now, if I took my other light that's in my USB light, see that's the result. No bueno, right? And this is the all dark version. Super, super tasty. And then this is we got the little flashlight. Telling a little story. Mhm. It was a dark and stormy night. It happens to be raining outside right now. Sorry, because I'm trying to make this fun for y'all where I can actually see at the same time. Right? Okay. So I'm feeling this angle makes me look a little lopsided, but I guess you'll have that. I don't know. Honestly, I could go all dark. What do you think? Well, then I can't read the cards, right? Um, yeah, I think we'll just have to do this. Okay. Shaman, trust in higher forces. Okay. So, the weatherman tells us one thing, and then here comes the rain, right? Although the weatherman I watched today accurately predicted that it was going to sprinkle those raindrops. Is that a song? What is that? It's like raindrops. Something. Yeah, I don't know. Can't remember. Anyway. Moving along. Chop, chop. There's people properly celebrating their victory over the Czech Republic, which they go by Czechia here. Or is it, or is, almost looks like there's a missing letter to me, but I don't think so. Let's see. South Africa also defeated South Korea. Interesting. 1-0. Yeah, yeah. Czech, yeah. Well, I think that's supposed to be, yeah, for the Czech Republic, right? I think there's like a separate Slovakian team, isn't there? I mean, it's like a whole different country now and everything. But yeah, that's probably a big deal. Is Elon Musk celebrating right now the South African World Cup victory? To the victor go the spoils. He did. I mean, love him or hate him. He did become a father for like the 13th time. So I'm sure he has plenty of reason to celebrate. I mean, now that's one dude that's probably never getting a baby shower, right? I mean, do the women get baby showers that are with him? I mean, that's kind of interesting because, since, well, you know what? That's probably why. That's probably why his trillionaire status went deflated because he just had to have that one extra baby. But hey, guys, just have as many as Elon. You'd only have to be a trillionaire, right? Okay. Um, in the old days, that wasn't the case, right? Those of us that have relatives that came from larger, immediate families than we did. Those people being our ancestors. Yes, yes, yes. I was getting a chuckle the other day, one of the readers that I sometimes watch, okay, because I do, some people don't, and that's fine. I don't have an issue with it. I do from time to time, whatever. I watch other types of information as well. And it brought me to the point that I had to comment because part of the reading was about somebody believing in the existence of other universes, of aliens, and being labeled as crazy. I mean, didn't the United States government just put out some stuff like in the last few years about, yes, UFOs are real. Yes, there are aliens. Yes, there's all these other things. So it's like, under what classification? Do you know what I mean? And I had to comment in there and I was like, oh, somebody call up the History Channel and cancel Ancient Aliens because of these bozos. You know what I mean? Because they're like, oh, they're crazy. They don't know what they're talking about. Like, just because they want to be party poopers, right? 3-0, that's a decisive win, right? I don't know what all the rules are in soccer. I don't know if any cards were thrown. I had it on. I was watching it, but I didn't, you know what I mean? Casual observer. Best thing going on. It's not the Olympics, right? But it is the world, you know, right? And it's on the North American continent. I mean, that's pretty badass. From Toronto all the way down to Mexico City. That is wild. Can you imagine the airlines? They are probably, I hope they're having a good time, these airlines flying all these people around, but talk about, the pressure because people want to get to their matches on time that they paid these buku bucks for, right? No wonder wasn't it like Spirit Airlines? They're like, no, we're out of this before the World Cup. They were like, we can't. They're like, we won't be able to do. They're like, you want us to fly the what? The whole Tartan army? Where? Back to Boston for one last barrel? How many barrels of Sam Adams? Crazy. Oh yeah, Broken Arrow. That is a song. Robbie Robertson. I also have that covered on my Ophelia's band channel if you happen to like that one. See, this is I'm not as familiar with this webcam, so it's hard for me. There it is. Okay. No wonder why I feel like I'm looking weird because I'm not in selfie mode. I'm just realizing it. This camera, see, you can actually read that on the screen given the right there. Do you know what I mean? It's like shining off the card. The card is just glossy enough, but you can see that it says Broken Arrow. Okay. So embrace the energy of peace. And, like the shamans do, I was burning my incense, in my Palo Santo. Again, people be like, oh, they're a witch. Oh, they're doing weird things. Have you ever been? I think even the Episcopalians, the Lutherans, not just the Catholics, burn candles, burn incense. Oh, did somebody say Chinese? What do the Chinese have to go in and celebrate in these big temples? In Japan, they ring you know, it's like after a while, these folks need to start asking themselves, like, why are they complaining so much about what the collective is doing? You know? And it's like, you guys, we're just like honoring traditions, which for me, being raised in the church, for me, that tradition, sometimes it's kind of like what helps keep you going because you will have periods of you know, doubt, right? Of your faith being tested, those sorts of things. Okay. So, to kind of ward off those negative vibes, right? We do things that honor our traditions. Maybe for you, your tradition is that whatever that strawberry pretzel jello cake is that a lot of people make for the 4th of July. Get rid of those stale pretzels, right, ladies? I mean, just kidding. I would just advise maybe not using the spicy pretzels, right, as your crust. There's so many different flavors these days, right? Oh boy. Oh god. Speaking of incense. Oh, since it started raining, it was on the window and I had to mm, I can't stop the rain against my window. Who did that before Missy Elliott? Miss Tina Turner. Okay. I don't know who wrote that song because she did a lot of songs that other people wrote, right? But I do have that on, I think I have like her greatest hits album or something. It says the best on it. Of course, what's love got to do with it? Private dancer, anybody? I'm a private dancer, dancer for life. Do what you want me to do. Where's Jimmy Fallon at? I'm your private dancer. Okay. I need that wig. I knew that she wore a wig, and that girl could wear a wig too. You know what I mean? But she had been doing it for years. So by that time, what, you're 40 years old, you've already been a mother, you've already been divorced, you've already had your life threatened multiple times. You're like, I'm putting on this wig and my black mini skirt and my, V-neck sweater, right? And that's what she famously said. She was like, I didn't want to sing those old blues songs that, her ex-husband's band used to do and stuff like that. She's like, I wanted to sing Hot Legs and Bitches back. which I believe Bitches Back is Elton John, right? So happy Pride Month, everybody. Okay. Whatever team you play for, right? That's I think is the cool part about watching this. So I keep ending up having this this World Cup stuff, right? Um, maybe I can go see my hair. It's a little better. I see my incense and candle going. Okay. Continuing on. Somebody's like, wow, is she long-winded today? Well, there is a full moon around the corner. It was just half moon the other day when I was out. I kind of felt like that weird, like, I don't know. You know what I mean? When it's like the animals start stirring. But, when you're somebody who's tapped in, sometimes you sense that stuff, before, crests, right? So, all the medical professionals are going to be like, yeah, this might be a weird and wonky one, right? And I have relatives that are in like the nursing profession and stuff, and they said it's true. They said it's true. Or, that people will just start firing off and stuff, in terms of acting a little more animated, you know, than they typically see them around those times and those peaks. Also through this week, I was just reading that, and this is the last time until 2034, I think it said, that Mars and Pleiades, okay, the seven sisters, will be visible together. And that is through, I believe, June 28th, which is 4 days from now. Okay. So if you're into astronomy and stargazing, like I am, definitely go and check that out. So this makes it look like I have like it's weird. It's weird. So yeah, those are the announcements, right? Did you guys have announcements when you were in school? These are the morning announcements. Mhm. So anyway, all right, all right. Maybe I'll just do one side here. The side that this is, yeah, you can tell obviously I didn't get dressed up for the occasion today. I am so sorry. I was thinking I was going to do, using my mobile device, but again, since the stream has not been uploading, I'm like, you know what I mean? It's a little aggravating. Anyway, that's why they say have a backup plan, right? But I like to do lives. I like to do you know what I mean? Just kind of bouncing it off. Wow, the notification just popped up on my computer of the Mexico match. So I also was reading that because I was rooting for Scotland because I heard that if they lose, which they lost the match today, that then they don't advance to like the knockout round. And it's been pretty enjoyable seeing them enjoy several of the cities here where their matches have been taking place, right? And I was actually impressed with the number of fans that were able to join the delegation. But some of us are probably local people too that have that kind of heritage and stuff. Because we have a lot of like Scotch, Irish, British, you know what I mean? Especially like post World War II. I mean, they were our allies and everything, so kind of makes kind of makes sense. But I will hand it to them because yeah, I was also reading where they literally ran out of beer. Like they didn't anticipate, and it's funny because right, like in the United States, we're not consuming as much alcohol, right? So you can see my little sweat from up here from that. We're not consuming as much alcohol, so yeah, I think they were a little ill prepared. But then I think one of the best ones that I've seen recently, at least today, the last couple days, is some of the Europeans trying the barbecue and, mostly Texas barbecue. But yeah. Uh, and for those that don't know, they're calling it Texas barbecue because there literally are different kinds of barbecue. There's Memphis barbecue, there's Kansas City barbecue, which all the Kansas City people are probably experiencing over there in that city. And then there's also the Carolina barbecue. There might even be some people that argue that there's a specific Florida barbecue, but I leave them for this, to take care of the seafood. Some of the best seafood, right? Along with the folks on the East Coast, the northern East Coast, right? Uh, see, this is something that, like, if you would be like, well, wait a minute, Miami's east, and that's the coastline. That is not East Coast. That is Florida. That is southeastern Florida. It's like another planet. Okay, like the East Coast is the New England. Think the original colonies, folks. Okay, so you have to understand the I mean, it's part of the language is the mindset, the etymology, right? Okay. All right. What was the card say? Shaolin Master. All right. Um, I don't know. Do the Shaolin Masters cross different regions of Asia, or is that specific to one? Be graceful in movement and action. Okay. He has like he has a praying mantis on his thumb. They had the female, I think the male too, but the female definitely has an ear on her abdomen. Praying mantis. See that? I believe over there too, they're considered good luck, and some people keep them as pets. And then on his other wrist there, you can see his prayer beads, and it's like he's doing that thing like the kid in the Matrix where he's like, uh, levitating the object and moving it like with the power of his mind because he's shouting. Right? Okay, so there's lots of certain like, oh my gosh. Well, you know what? There's lots of movies out there where that's kind of how, the narration, you settle in a village where they're peacefully working on their, prayers and everything, but then somebody invades the village and then they gotta get out too. Right? Okay. Let's see how well I can put that. Oh my gosh. This is just not picking it up like I would like. That is crazy. That is crazy. I wonder if I put something behind me here. Not really. It's not really working either. My apologies. Anyway, so yeah, and he's also wearing the color red, this like burnt orange almost red, which I imagine is somewhat symbolic of fire and transformation. Okay, so anytime you're heading in, it's like these dudes becoming these warriors, these dudes becoming these monks, right? They're going through a transformation of sorts, right? They're like the Bruce Lee movies, he's teaching the student, but yet he's still a student in the way of, oh, I didn't think they were actually going to test me, and now I gotta show them. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. Okay. So it's like, here's the uniform. We hope you never have to implement it, but you might. Okay. All right. I'm gonna turn down the news in the background. It's not quite as fun as the soccer soccer is. Yes, I'm an American. We call it soccer. All these Europeans are probably like, it's football. We have football also. And then, of course, there's rugby, which I believe the Aussies do both like rugby and footy ball, right? Like it's like an Australian, like hyped up version of rugby, kind of, but not quite the same as American football, right? But they do like kick through instead of like a goal like through a goal post, right? Chat is so quiet today. This is crazy. Maybe it's because I'm doing it on the laptop. This happens every time I'm on the laptop like this. It's weird because I'm using the same Wi-Fi. Same, you know. Explain it, Lucy. Laddie daddy, let's have a party. We don't cause trouble or bother nobody. Right? Okay. Also, today is Fête Nationale from Quebec. So French Canada. Yes. Sorry, guys. I've seen South Park. Anyway, provide flat stepping stones in a sunny spot in your garden where butterflies can rest. They need to bask in the sun in order to warm their wings for flight. So just like an airplane, when they take flight, they get a little chilly on the outside, and then they like to warm themselves on the stone. So this is I know I've been reading this for you guys, my Farmer's Almanac. You can see here, which they said they were going to stop making, but I was able to purchase a desktop version. I was able to purchase a of the calendar. So I don't know. Maybe they're just not doing the regular guidebook anymore, but they do have other literature that they're providing still. Please do, because I enjoy it. Right? Because some of us read and stuff anyway, and we run into like, the inspirational quotes and all that stuff, or, some people are very particular about, what they're reading, but, this is all just kind of like information stuff. Calendar. Yeah. All right. I was searching to see if I could find another channel that featured World Cup background noise, you guys, but I'm not finding it. I mean, I don't know where that other match was at. If that one was in Toronto, but Toronto's more like I think like my closer to my time zone, whereas like Vancouver is like, San Francisco time zone. You know what I mean? LA time, like LA and Vancouver, but I don't think Vancouver's doing any hosting. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen them reported on. Anyway. So yeah, guys, I guess I'm catching World Cup fever. FIFA. F around if you dare. Okay. What does FIFA stand for, by the way? Federation of International Football Associations? Something like that. I've heard that there's some complaints about the organization itself, which they're usually, I mean, NFL has had its share of, but the fans and people still like football. We still watch football. It's you know a pastime, if you will. But like the American pastime though is baseball for sure. And very much like soccer, like football. Okay? Uh, en español, el fútbol. Okay, Pele. Okay, Yes. You see those old movies about, the old neighborhood and you know, all that stuff. They're playing stickball. They didn't even have a bat. But if you had a real bat, you might break somebody's window. But if you play with a stick, right? And, a wiffle ball or, some kind of, taped up thing, right? You might not hit your neighbor's window and get in trouble. Um, and require no uniforms, right? Just like soccer. I had a very interesting exchange with somebody somewhere. I can't remember where it was at. Anyway, I think it was the day of that UFC fight because I was out. I don't, typically hop around like that, like I'm in my 20s anymore, but I was out watching some things and had a casual conversation about that. And I mentioned, I was like, and I don't know, they were just kind of like, who cares about the World Cup? I was like, but it's a very accessible sport. And I think that's part of what people love about it, right? Just like or like basketball. Like all you really need is the ball, right? And in school we used to put on the pennies, right? But guys will go out there, it'll be shirts and skins, right? So same with soccer, right? Anyway, baseball, and I think that's why baseball became so popular is because, you didn't have to have a lot of stuff. Now you would like a mitt, right? But if you're using a rag ball or something like that, you can literally catch it with your bare hands, right? So, anyway. Only thing is now, kind of like the people about FIFA and with this dynamic pricing have been talking about, going to a major league game for baseball, NFL, hockey's probably the same way. It is very expensive, right? Unless you're getting a package of seats or something, or getting it from a reseller, right? It is not really something that the average American is going just to be like blowing their money on every weekend, right? And then you have to pay for parking when you're there, and you got to get food and the gas to get there. And, are the match days on while you're supposed to be working, or, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there are some people that got fired because they were like, oh, and like that one guy, bless his heart, he was like, I don't even care if my wife is watching. This is the best time of my entire life, including my wedding. He's like, including my wedding and the birth of my children. But hey, man, you know what I mean? If he never had been married or had kids or anything like that, what would he have done with his life, right? Maybe he was an aspiring soccer player and he was like, this was it. This is so exciting. Like that guy from Japan that he was like, I do not speak the English. Already we're like, you're winning, dude. That's a full sentence right there. He's like, I am excited. And it was just like, and it's like, yes, thank you. Thank you. This is the kind of enthusiasm that some of these little conservative weirdos, that run around and want to police everyone for microaggressions or whatever they, call it. You know what I mean? They were looking at me. So you you know what I mean? It's like everything is some crime, you know what I mean? And I am just, really enjoying the different flavor, the different level of exuberance that is being shown and being embraced out there. Okay. Because I feel like a lot of us collective that have been targeted as, you're too outspoken. Why are you jumping up and down? Like, why are you even cheering for your team? Or they're just surrounded by people that are like, they're too cool to clap, or they're too cool to get up and dance. You know what I mean? That's great. It's like, well, who put that stick ball? It's like they put the stick up there and put the ball on the end, and it's like it's been up there for a while. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. All right, let's continue with reading. Whoo, yeah. Some of these people could be shapeshifters, and that's part of it. Collective is because I was reminded of the story finally. I've thought of this for a few readings now, and I kept forgetting about it because it happened so long ago. It happened when I was in college, and so short story again. Um, I tried out for the vagina monologues, okay? And it was not just, only open to theater people or the drama department. You know what I mean? It wasn't like you had to have some prerequisite just because it was an activity, right? So I volunteered to, or signed up to do some reading or be assigned some lines, okay? So we got there to the session, and the girl, and she seemed all right, and she was very slender, and had kind of some hipstery hat on, I mean, but this was in the late 90s. Okay, so way when I was in college, when I began college. This was like one of the first things I did when I began college. Okay, because I was an engineering student, and I was like, oh, well, this will be fun, and I was, which I later changed to a women's studies minor, by the way. But I started out in engineering. Okay. And I was like, well, I'll sign up to do the vagina monologues, and that'll be kind of, getting that creative outlet, I mean, attended to, right? So anyway, this girl has us together, and she's like assigning us, things. So we run these lines. And before then, she tells us that she's, auditioned for a commercial before, and I think they chose her and all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, good for her. But, I mean, she kind of put it out there that, like, I have the street cred, just FYI. You know what I mean? And it's like, again, most of these ladies that were there were not involved in the drama department, not, necessarily in the art, in the arts in that form studying. We were there because we supported and were inspired by the project, right? And many of us had actually read and heard the vagina monologues previously. So the one that I got assigned, this was the assignment where the women would be sitting on stage, and then you have to describe how an orgasm is. Okay. And mine was because some lady described it as a machine gun. So I thought, okay, well, what sound is a machine gun make? And I was like, And all the other girls, when we were doing this line through rehearsal, she was laughing. This was in Bradley Hall, by the way, in New Miller. Okay, this is where the rehearsal was the same place the event took place later, and I'll get to that later. Um. Anyway, um. So we recovered from our laughter and whatever, and then we kept going around, and everybody did their impression of this description of these orgasms, in this Eve Ansler, you know, kind of spoken documentary. You know what I mean? It wasn't quite a play, but it was, an allocation of stories and the research that she had done with women and all these other things, right? And it was very popular at the time. So this was actually pretty like progressive for but it was a Methodist university, you know what I mean? So, it was liberal arts, and it wasn't maybe as conservative as some places where they would, where there probably would have been some helicopter parents saying, did you know that they are rehearsing the vagina model down at the university? Like, whoa, lady, we already know you spread it to get your, farm load of hooligans, right? Anyway, That's what I never understand about some of these people that have all these farm kids. Like, we don't know what you were up to. So don't come marching across the county. Like, excuse me. So after the practice session, so I'm thinking like everything's fine. I'll show up for when we do this performance. And I mean, that was the only thing I had. There were people that had soliloquies, they were reading these long paragraphs. I mean, I was just gonna be and then part of an ensemble. And I was perfectly fine with that because I had a lot of other things on my plate being an engineering student. How many of the engineering students were women? There was only like 4 of us out of how many dudes were in there? Like 60? I made it longer than some of the other women did. I did not end up graduating with an engineering degree. I did get my bachelor's degree, just not in engineering, but there were only 4 of us to start in there. Okay, I'm just saying. Yes, I took statics. Anyway, um, I knew a guy that was a double E major though, and he never studied, he said, and it was just seemingly like some of us actually have to study this stuff. So, like Minnie Driver's character, she's like, she's like, I actually have to learn, so I have to learn this. Not everybody is talented as you, right? So after the practice session, Miss Commercial Lady with her little pixie haircut and her spectacles, she's like, you know, I just want you to take this seriously, right? Because my impression of an orgasm that sounds like a machine gun, as per Eve Ansler's vagina monologues, got laughs. She had to come and try and attack me. And I thought, you know what? I'm not dealing with this. So I didn't show back up. I thought, I have other things to worry about. I have an engineering degree to take care of, lady. I'm sorry that you didn't hit more success after your commercial in the 6th grade, your tampon commercial or whatever you were doing. I believe that was it, right? Okay. Anyway, if you could read my mind. Right. Anyway, so I still attended as a spectator. Well, guess who delivered the machine gun line? Miss Tampon, right? So Miss Tampon is up there, and what does she do? And then what does the audience do? New Miller Hall. It's a huge, like 3 sections. Okay. There's the center, and then there's the right, and then the left. Burst into enthusiastic giggles and laughter. Oh, I wonder where she got the idea to do that. I really can't remember her name. Anyway, other people want to steal your enthusiasm, collective, is the point I'm getting at. They want to steal your ideas. They want to steal your enthusiasm. They think you're dumb. Kind of like some of the band members that I've worked with before that have, not given me credit for songs that I co-wrote and arranged. And it's like, really? You just came up with that all by your little self when in fact we were at my house because you guys couldn't figure it out. So you brought it to me. Let's fix it. You know, I made it on my music channel. I made a video about that, kind of explaining the situation, you know, because these guys are out here acting like They invented white bread. So don't be afraid to get that victory collective. You might not have the tartan army behind you, right? But Mexico City, right? Maybe you're at the right place at the right time and having a field day, huh? What is that song? It's in my head. I'm trying to this ain't the heartache that I thought for you. This ain't the heartache that I You got your limit, baby. I got mine. Dun, 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 dun. You got to pick up that telephone. Who, who does that? Anyway, yes, I am a musician as well. I mean, a lot of people are. Some people grew up singing in the church. So, to them, it's just part of the vernacular. They don't think of themselves as musicians, but that doesn't mean you don't understand music. That doesn't mean you don't know how to sing. That doesn't mean you don't know how to clap your feet and clap your feet and tap your hands, right? Okay. Guys, cracking myself up tonight. All right, Earth Guard. This is upcoming full Unk Patrol. Unk Patrol. Unk it out. Unk it out. You guys heard that one? Unk it out. Gonna unk it out. Unk it out. Yeah, because they're like, oh, we're trying to try and get out of that chair. Unk it out. Get down, get down, get down, get down, get down, get down, get down. Boom, 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 boom. Right? We all know it. Bum, 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 bum. Jungle boogie, jungle boogie. Yeah, I mean, it's like some of these folks, it's like they didn't go back and listen to these songs and realize what they're saying, right? And then when I look at you like you're crazy for dancing, and it's like, dude, this was a hit on the radio. Apparently, you forgot. You know, kind of reminds me of when there was a gathering I was at, and there was a DJ and stuff, and there was just like one just a couple tables, or they're just kind of like yeah, it's like okay. You don't want to embarrass yourselves in public. I get it. Earth Guardian. Stay rooted and grounded. Okay, so earth energy, all right. Again, it's tis the season, right? The summer, get out to the beach, get out into the grass, dig your hands into the soil, you know what I mean? Maybe you're gardening, whatever you're doing, right? Okay. I just never understand or people are like, like make fun of people that are dancing and stuff. And it's like, I mean, maybe they don't like how they're dancing, but like again, now here's another one. Oh my, here's look, that's hilarious considering those ladies are on. So people getting all upset about Houston Rodeo, right? And I mean, look what's on TV right now, the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. So basically, some people showed up to the Houston Rodeo dressed like Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, which everyone's watching right now and saying, right? But when you show up to the Houston rodeo dress like that, it's like, I, again, I had to leave a comment like this, now some of it, questionable. Not going to say it would be my personal preference to wear, but some of these people that are making these videos about these fairs and carnivals and the attire, I'm like, have they? I don't think these people have ever actually been to a fair or carnival that are making these comments. It's hot. It gets hot. There's dudes walking around without their shirts on. Sometimes there's little babies running around with no shoes. Um, I feel like some people really miss the whole point. And then it's like, and then they're out there making all these content, and it's like, well, it's a family event. I want a little tissue. I want a little tissue. I mean, I went to it was a fish fry fundraiser for, some department, some, whatever. And I didn't really get any, but they were gonna have like a beer garden and stuff and a band. Had a beer garden, folks. Listen to this. They had a beer garden. So but there was like a carnival and stuff on the other side. But so like separated. So, but there's one main entrance, right? So I'm walking in, and there's this kind of like family in front of me, and they're all like disorganized. You know what I mean? It's like they're finally there. Like, who cares? Like, let them run, right? Uh, and I walk past who I'm assuming is the husband. He was at least the dad. I don't know if they were married or not because of the comment he made to me. But I know he made it to me because there was nobody else around. And I kind of like hurriedly passed them. And then the man yells, like really loudly. He said, "This is a children's carnival." And there were two people walking behind him, and I kind of made eye contact with them, and I was like, because I thought, is he like saying this to me? And I quickly realized that I think he was. Now, what triggered him? Brett Kavanaugh, you want to weigh in on this one? What triggered him? I was only drinking at a frat party. I mean, even Clarence Thomas was rolling his eyes at that one. Clarence was like, you don't know what I had to do. Anyway, so horrifying, horrifying. Um, I believe in Anita Hill. Remember that Designing Women, right? When one of the characters has the t-shirt that says she lied, right? Miss Sugarbaker had the t-shirt that said she lied, and the other one or says and the other one says I believe her, or, you know what I mean? Or he lied, and she, whatever. The Annie Potts character was obviously the feminist, right? Whereas the younger Sugarbaker sister was a little more traditional in her beliefs. There were Southerners. Did you know? Um, so yeah. Yeah. Where was I at with that? Something about Brett Kavanaugh. Drinking at frat parties. Who does that? Oh yeah, like Houston rodeo stuff. Okay, yeah, what? And the outfits, And so yeah, this guy yelling, and I'm thinking, because I really didn't think that he would be yelling at me. I was wearing a tie-dye dress that where my sleeves came down to here, or maybe here. It's like cap sleeve. It's a round neck collar, and it came to like mid thigh, and it was like a bluish and white tie-dye. I'll see if I can find a picture and post it in my in the posts because I thought, why is he yelling like that? It's like this isn't even close to inappropriate. It's not even close to inappropriate. You know what I mean? It's like him and these Houston rodeo video nerds, you know what I mean, need to get together, I guess, and have a hoedown, and maybe they can go visit Iran or Saudi Arabia where they have to wear a fucking burqa or hijab or whatever the hell. Because we don't do that over here in the States, bro. No, no. And I ain't never even been to Houston, FYI. Okay. You go to the fair, you go to a carnival, you're gonna see some things. You're gonna see some things. You know, not it ain't it's not like going to church. Somebody said, well, they shouldn't be wearing that club wearing that. Okay. Then I guess you weren't watching the Tonight Show when the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders came out and you're like, see, I realized this when Beyonce performed at the Super Bowl. I was watching it with all my dude band members who, oh God, they would never admit to liking her music or anything like that. But when she marched out and started shaking them hips like Shakira, a pin could be heard dropping from across town. Their eyes were so glued on. But I tell you what, none of them would ever be caught dead admitting, right? That they like just listen to her song on the radio or, oh, I was just, you know what I mean? Like back in the day, it's like, oh, it was the Spice Girls were on. You know what I mean? Like we used to have more of a sense of humor about it. Now it's just seems so weird, people's reactions to it. And now people have actively chosen to blame her and her Cowboy Carter album, which was hugely successful, right? Yes, crossed, and this is why, right? They hate it because it was country hit, R&B hit, pop chart hit, right? That's why. Okay. Same with Britney Spears. Oh man, they're gonna criticize that all day long, but they're watching them videos, aren't they? Aren't they? Right. So yeah, I was like, I just couldn't understand that response. I'm like, I mean, is like, was he offended by the tie dye? It's like, and it's like the town where I was at, I wouldn't even consider it a very conservative town. I mean, literally, I was heading to, the beer tent. Maybe that was the problem. Because instead of heading to the beer tent, he had to go with his family through the carnival. Right? I mean, true stories, folks. Can't make them up. Can't make them up. A feather, light as a feather. Guardian angel, you are not alone. Yep. And that was one of those things I just kind of giggled it off at the time. And it's like, some people they might actually like, and was I in the best place feeling about my body? You know what I mean? As you get older, things start shifting, and it's like, look, I don't have the tautness of a 20-year-old, but I don't want to be 20 years old anymore. No, I want to enjoy the wisdom that I've accumulated during my life. You know, So, don't be sheltered, collective. Don't let these people make you think, because where do feathers appear? It's like they just appear out of nowhere, right? Be like that feather. Just show up somewhere, right? And enjoy the moment. And, maybe if it's not the best environment, just like feathers do, they end up disappearing. All right, go elsewhere. Right. I mean, I that did missed a show because the band was pretty good that night, and they had a great light show, and they were up on one of them flatbed things, and the flatbed trailer and everything. I mean, it was. And then you had the Ferris wheel. I'm gonna post a pic. I'm gonna dig up my photos from that, you guys, and put them in the community tab post. Okay, so you can see what it looked like, because it's like as cool as you imagine. You know what I mean? I can't comment necessarily on the food though. I can't even remember. I might have gotten something, but I don't know now. You know what I mean? I think I might have just had a drink or two, you know what I mean? Because it wasn't like super close to my home. So I was like, and I went by myself. So again, a lot of times when I go places by myself like that, I don't over imbibe because I don't want somebody else seeing what I'm consuming and thinking that they can try something on me. You know what I mean? So, but, sometimes I travel with my animals though, so, it's a little bit safer, right? But just saying, because a lot of people are like, yeah, but it's dangerous out there. Yeah, I get it. We're all living in it, right? But just like W said, right, we can't let the terrorists win. Do not let these people terrorize you into thinking that you have to stay home, that you can't participate in the community, that you can't be a part of the community. Why? Because you're attractive? Because their ship is already sailed. you know Again, some of these people is like, well, I mean, and the thing, like, it's Houston, like, it's hot. I mean, it gets hot where I'm at, and I am way north of where Houston is, okay, in our country. So I can't even imagine. Like, Houston is probably hotter than balls down there, right? So a girl in a little tank top, tube top, whatever, and Daisy Duke's like, what's the problem? What is the problem? Something is wrong about that. Something is very wrong about that with the amount and prevalence of videos that I've seen now. They're attacking these people. Now, are there some glamour don'ts? Are there some that took it, across a line of decency, right? That, but again, a fair, a carnival, you are gonna see certain things like that because you're seeing all walks of life. I really question some of these content creators that are out here criticizing some of these outfits, and it's like, how small and sheltered is your viewpoint right now? Because it's showing, and it's not classy. They're sitting there telling all these people to be classy, but their critique is not classy at all. You know what I'm saying? Just how that woman that critiqued me for the vagina monologues and then used my material, right? It's like where Jerry's like, he stole my Ovaltine, right? You know what I mean? Mhm. But now I have YouTube. So can't stop me now. Having such a good time. Dun, can't stop me now. Yeah, it's a pride month. Da-na-na-na-na-na. Da-na-na-na-na. Don't stop me. Having a good time. Don't stop me. Having a good time. Having a good time. Next card. Oh yeah, we were on Guardian Angel. Blessed Angel is the name of one of my songs, by the way. It is available on Spotify under my Ophelia's band page. Okay, so on all streaming services. Um, I do have a separate platform just of my name registered, but everything that I've released it under the Ophelia's band, production title, which is mine. Okay. Just FYI. Don't stop me. Not sorry, actually. No, I know where that came from, right? Eons of women saying sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm perimenopausal. How about you? Don't stop me. I'm having a good time. Not on any hormones yet. Thank God. Some people do that. They balance their hormones with vitamin supplements, diet, right? If you're short on B12, stuff like that. Vitamin D, stuff like that. Wasn't that one of the Kristen Wiig characters? Something like that. She's like, Penelope, yes, one of her SNLs. Well, I was on the I was on the cover of a mag. Well, I was on the cover of several magazines multiple times. Vogue, Elle, and Maxim. Okay, Penelope. Who later? Sky Father. Sky rockets in flight. Woo! Afternoon light. Trust in the unknown. Afternoon light. Oh my gosh, you guys. I also just watched a video short, and it's obviously like a couple. Okay. And he's asking her, he's like, "Can I tell you something, but you can't get mad?" And he's like, "You got to promise. You got to promise. Excuse me. You got to promise you're not gonna get mad." Star ancestor. Having a good time. I mean, don't you imagine your ancestors having a better time, right? Not struggling, not worrying about you and what you got going on, right? Think about that. Because where do you want your future self to be? Having a good time, having a good time. Okay? Follow the voice of your soul. Kind of reminds me of some of those. So, which I've used some of them, some of the sleep videos on YouTube, right? Um, where it's like subliminal messaging, but at the beginning they'll be like, "This dark screen remove all the negative energies," kind of thing. And that's cool because some people don't like, listening to me, Okay, but I'm a real person, you know. There's people out there who their friends online are computer generated, a la Alexa or lesser. I disabled my Alexa. Um, I decided I didn't need to program it anymore. I figured the content I'm putting on YouTube, right, is enough. Is enough. Okay. I'm gonna get into this deck. Some of it is more it's not a tarot deck. So my apologies if you're looking for specifically tarot today. I have not pulled any yet, and as long as we're going, I kind of doubt I will with this message. Plus, Uh, like I said, 3 out of my last 4 live streams have not yet posted to the live tab, including 2 readings on Sunday. So I was a little disappointed. I thought those would have shown up by now. There are shorts that are connected to those videos, at least 2 of the 3, but not the long form. So it's like, okay, YouTube, what is the, you know what I mean? So I submitted a feedback report, which I haven't really done much of. So we'll see how the platform addresses it. You know what I mean? I used to work in IT in a corporate setting. And, when you open up an incident ticket, those things are expected to be resolved in a timely manner. So we'll see what happens. We shall see. Yes, I hear you. Yeah, I'm almost done. Yeah. Oh, she's like, I'm tired of listening to you go on and on. Okay. 10. What was I talking about? Gardening? Yes, yes. Maintenance, encouragement, and guidance. Somebody might need a little maintenance, right? Coming out of the shamanic cave, right? You know what I mean? You see people coming out of these sweat lodges and stuff, and they're looking a little unkempt and everything. Okay. All right. You went through your experience now, right? Time to clean up a little bit. Time to get those hairs trimmed. Maybe you need to get a fresh shave. Okay. Maybe even file down those eagle claws. Yeah. Take a few layers of skin off the back of that heel. All right, you don't even feel it. You're like, are they even scrubbing me? A lady I used to hang out with that I knew from school and stuff, she apparently one of her coworkers, her feet were so bad that they had to tell her to come back on a separate occasion because it was going to take so long for them to saw through the calluses that had built up on her feet. Like, we're going to be 2 sessions. Okay. An ounce of prevention, right? Oh, I forgot to finish the cupcake story. So this lady and her boyfriend sitting there talking. Okay. Anyway, I mean, it's a dude. Obviously, he's never had a menstrual cycle in his life. Anyway, he was like, you ate 12 cupcakes over last weekend. He's like, I think that's a problem. And she was just sitting. He was like, it was 6 on one day. And can you imagine? Somebody's counting your cupcakes. Stop the presses! Now, this chick was not overweight. She didn't, he didn't say anything about her having the diabetes. And I thought, well, okay, yeah, obviously this is a dude talking because he's never had a period for in his whole life. But when I was in high school, right, our cafeteria ladies were the bomb. Okay. Those women made sure we were fed. But they also knew we were in these sports and stuff. And we were also studying, so we needed a lot of calories for our little brains to function. Okay. So basically, I mean, anybody that wanted seconds could go back through the line a second time and they loved it. They're like, "Oh, here's an extra slice of pizza. Here's a," So, especially the guys on the football team, right? They'd go and get second helpings a lot. And I mean, sometimes you would see them, they'd have like two pieces of cake. Okay, well, that's just lunch for one day. I mean, what if when they got home, their mom or somebody had some cookies for them? So what? That's like maybe four pieces of sweets in a day. And then what if the next day they did the same thing? So that's eight. Like, so what? That's only four short of this lady's 12. Who is this dude? Counting her cupcakes. Obviously, he's not reading, but he is going like this. He's concerned for her health. I want to know now. I want to know how long that. I want to know now how long that one's gonna last. This chick went on 500 pound, 1,000 pound, 3,000, whatever, how many pound life or whatever those shows are. You know, but she was just kind of sitting there because, it was one of those things you'd be like, you know, careful what you wish for, ladies. Sometimes honesty is not the best policy. Would I lie to you? Yes. I would lie to you and say, there is not a too many number of cupcakes for you. No. She's young though. Anyway. Summer expansion, growth, literally summer. We just had the summer solstice. This will be here. That was another interesting story I saw. Somebody had posted about some news outlet um about a beekeeper that passed away. Yeah, get this. A beekeeper that passed away. And guess who showed up? All the bees showed up to the dude's funeral, like hanging out. And it said that they did not disturb any of the attendees or bystanders. They didn't try and sting anybody or attack anybody. They were but tell me we don't live on in the spirit after witnessing something like that. Miracle of nature. You know what I mean? So, collective, if you thought you were broken, if you lost some belief, maybe think about that story a little bit. Well, I broke my arrow. I can't go on. You're going to make a new arrow, and you're still going to point it in the direction that you were headed. What about that? You don't see Katniss walking around with only one arrow in her knapsack thing, do you? Ooh, I got the warning from the laptop. Okay. Let's see. Energy saver is on. Batteries not included. Accessories sold separately. 30% remainder. Thank God all those Brits are coming over here and, you know, making our American slang look real, easy to follow. They're so sophisticated with the way they talk, but they had the royals speaking like this. In the year of our Lord. Time. Time has come today. Time. Awesome. Yeah, time. Chambers Brothers, right? Time. And then at the end, they just shout, time. Okay. Time is now. You're in the present. You're in the present moment. Ground yourself. Okay. These grounding techniques, there's lots of different things that you can look up online. Okay. Resources that you can find. Books that you can. I recently linked my Feel Better Guru channel in the About Me section where I do actually talk about some grounding techniques. So if you are into that, okay, you can go over to that channel. Again, if you go to my main description, or I think it'll be now, I updated it, that it will be in the description of every video that I do. Okay. Presence. Self-awareness. Is that peridot? Is that what that's supposed to be? I think so. Let's get out my gemstone and crystal chart. Is it a peridot or a peridot? Let's ask the wizard. Here we are. In the year of our Lord. I have so much fun doing this. Do you understand? It's like, I get it. I don't have the most subscribers. I don't have whatever going on. But I just have too much fun doing this to quit. You know what I mean? So, right. If I don't do it, somebody else is going to steal it anyway. Right? Famous Eleanor Roosevelt quote, you will be criticized. Do or do not, right? There is no try. Okay? All right. Olive green gives the chemical composition here, includes iron and magnesium, aluminum, calcium, I want to say niacin. Okay, some other stuff. Silicon, some kind of oxide. All right, anyway, crystal structure is orthorhombic. Okay, so if you're familiar with the rhombus, I imagine it's something having to do with that. Okay. Hardness is a 6.5 to 7. The specific gravity is 3.3 to 4.3. The luster is vibrous to greasy. Interesting. Transparency, transparent to lucent. Metaphysical properties, it is a cleanser, change, and awareness. They're also known as olivine and chrysolite. Chrysolite spelled like chrysalis except with an O and then Lite. Okay. All right. Aligned with the heart chakra. Also, birthstone for Leo. How about that? Well, parados. Parados. You're like, I'm a parado, not a paradigm. Okay. Ba-na-na-na-na-na-na. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Steve Miller Band, right? Jungle love, it's driving me mad, it's making me crazy, crazy. So I think they do that whistling at the end of the song, which again, I have a song that I have whistling in, and that is at the end. It's my Living in a Cheater's Paradise song that I wrote and recorded. That's also on Spotify and all the major streaming, platforms. Okay. That one I actually got, say, formally recorded, used a recording engineer, went in there. I gave him the chords and stuff. He actually ended up playing my guitar that I brought in a separate track on that, and I did the vocal overlay. And then somebody I knew, I asked them to do the bass part, and then I just put it together. You know what I mean? Melded it together, right? And released it. And it's like, oh, okay. I also have some live releases of some of my songs on my Spotify channel. Yes. Earthworm, clarity, rumination. You guys ever have to dissect an earthworm? Anything in that formaldehyde? Right? And everyone's wearing masks these days. We don't wear masks doing that stuff. We're breathing it in, you know what I mean? This is why people were like, Gen X was tough. Yeah. Some of us actually had parents that threw us in the deep end. I'm not going to say mine did that. They didn't. They actually gave me swimming lessons, but there was an incident. Anyway, I think I've already talked about that. It wasn't their fault. It was the instructor's fault at the YMCA. She almost let me drown. I didn't know how to swim. I was like in kindergarten. And the YMCA, they're like those really deep pools. There's like no shallow end. It's a shallow end month. Remember, listen. Ooh, do you wanna know a secret? Ooh, na 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 na. I'm in love with you. Ooh, ooh. Okay. I think that's a Beatles tune. One of the girls I used to run around with in high school, she liked a lot of the Beatles music. I think one of her relatives had a lot of the albums and stuff. So anyway. Walking staff support and encouragement. hmm hmm I don't know why I'm getting Ace of Wands with this. But this could be something that your guardian angel or angels would like you to pay attention to. The act of walking, they want you to know that they support you and encourage you, and that, like, you can lean on them if you don't have somebody to lean on. Come on, brother. Okay. Yeah, I know. Just like mom. Okay. Yes. Is it? What? Do you need another Cheeto before bedtime? Is that the problem? I will be with you shortly. Yes, I will. She's smiling at me like it worked. Okay. She's like, I heard you tell that story about the 12 cupcakes. She's like, I had to ask. Are you kidding? Obviously, I don't feed my dog cupcakes, but they get all sorts of little snackos. Okay. You could be also somebody that does like hiking, like guided hikes or something. Like I know it's a picture of a staff. Okay. Think of like Moses who's leading people. Okay. Who was Moses? They were all leaning on him. Well, who's he leaning on? Well, he had to use the staff. Un más, por favor. Mortar and pestle. Integration, subtlety, and thoroughness. All right, so mixing up the medicine, making sure all the ingredients are there, right? And incorporating through. No lumps. Okay. No lumps or bumps. That's why I wear Spanx. Okay. Yes, integration. Now there's a success story. Sarah Blakely, the woman that was told no probably more times, than a lot of people. And she got that product through, and now she has an entire clothing line under the Spanx brand. It's not just pantyhose anymore, but they were like, I mean, like the first time I put a pair of those things on, I was like, oh, it's like, I guess this is how it was in the old days when they had to wear them corsets and they couldn't breathe. That's what it makes you feel like, but you're like, trying those on when you're what, in your teens. And it's like, God, I hope it doesn't get worse from here. Which I was really like physically fit in my teens, like because I did sports year round. Yes, integration, subtlety, and thoroughness. So, a collective, you might be integrating something that you have learned over time as well. Okay, where you're understanding how things mix together, you're understanding the magic that can happen when that occurs. Okay. So again, trust in the unknown. It might be one of those things where it's like, oh, I don't know if I should mix these all together. I remember my ex hollering at me one time because I was going to make some kind of juice punch, with some stuff that I bought from the store. And I started pulling this stuff out. How he, he just yelled, looked at me, and yelled at me. He's like, "You're ruining it." I was like, okay, I won't, make this punch then. But like, I kind of wanted to punch him in the face at that moment because it's like, I'm doing this for your family right here. I mean, it's never just one thing, is it, collective? It's like, yeah, well, Mr. Cupcake, that's one for me right there on that. So- oh, and then we already had the cupcake criticism, so I guess you're up to two, right? I mean, not just saying, for example. I mean, what was I going to do in that moment? Throw a big fit and say, well, then the party's canceled. And then have, his whole family and everybody that was en route to the house, with me being the host. See, what I'm saying, collective? That's what they do. That's what they do. It's how they poke at you. And they try and trigger you. They try and trigger you into being the Oh, you thought you were gonna do that, huh? Well, that's not working, is it? He chose poorly. All right. So again, don't be afraid to take those risks, collective. Okay. Because as you're listening to your ancestors and your guides, they're gonna tell you how to figure this all out. All right. So happy World Cupping to everybody. Look at this, the moon card. And we do have a full moon coming up next week. Okay. Phases, cycles, intuition. All right. So again, from your ancestral guides, if you're starting to get like a little bit of stuff happening where it's like, is that a sign from, or, have you seen those one videos? It's like, Gigi used to have, well, you know what I mean? Yes, those are the signs. Yes, this is confirmation. Yes. All right. Look at this card. It says Oracle, wait for important information. And see how she's like burning this incense? So it's kind of like how the Chinese do, right? They go into the temple, they put the offering there. Okay. I don't know if you guys watch Frankie's Just Tarot. Okay. But she has some stories, okay, that she shares every now and then. And one of these stories was about like a house having like bad juju. And she said that she did certain things. And it was like, kind of similar, how she was describing it is similar to, how the Chinese do their offerings to the ancestors. Okay. In order to receive the blessings. Okay. So maybe for you, it's burning the incense. Maybe it's doing the sage. Maybe it's, planting flowers. Maybe it's, what is it? Okay. All right. Mhm. Witchy women. Hmm. Anybody? Ooh, ooh, witchy woman. She got the moon in her eye. Moon in her eye. What do you think? Did they write Witchy Woman about Stevie Nicks? What do you think? Hmm? But I mean, her and Joe, cannot think of his last name right now for whatever reason. Had a thing. Walsh, right? Yeah, Joe Walsh. I like to say Crazy Uncle Joe. I used to talk about Crazy Uncle Neil, but he's Canadian, so. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this little hang. I sure have. And congratulations to the Mexico supporters, right? Because they won their World Cup match tonight, as did the South Africans, right? So that was always interesting. I don't know the basis for that language though. That's one that I have not really studied. Um, Kind of interesting topic, but probably for another time. Ooh. Until then, you guys, remember as you're in the chat, please do be kind to others. Like the video, especially if you were in the chat today. Okay, which it seems pretty quiet today. Maybe everybody is watching their favorite World Cup matches right round the clock. They got World Cup fever. Okay. But until next time, please do manifest wisely. Bye bye.